right, so we're diving deep today into how to just nail those dating conversations,
Yeah.
going beyond just the simple chit chat and how to really connect with someone.
Yeah. It's really interesting, actually, thinking about all the stuff that goes into having like a successful conversation in a romantic setting. Like it's not just what you say, it's how you say it, right? It's creating that whole vibe.
Exactly, it really is. So I guess let's start off by what are some of those pitfalls that we can try to avoid?
Yeah.
Those things that can kind of just kill the conversation before it even gets going. Like I'm thinking, have you ever noticed how one-word answers can just be a total killer?
Oh, yeah. It's like a brick wall, right? Like imagine someone asks you, "What are you passionate about?" And you're just like, "Music."
Yep.
Like, what are they supposed to do with that? It's like, where do you go from there?
Exactly. It's like, oh, okay. So instead of just saying a fact like that, maybe try something like, I'm really passionate about music. I play guitar and I'm actually learning to produce my own tracks. What about you? What gets you fired up?
Yeah, yeah. Now you're giving them something to work with, right? They get a little peek into your world, and then you've invited them into theirs as well.
Right. And then kind of along those same lines, how about trying to go beyond those simple yes and no answers? I mean, obviously we use those words, but if you just overuse those, it's like you're in a boring questionnaire.
Right. Instead of just confirming or denying, like give a little bit more like context, right?
Right.
Invite a further discussion. So instead of just saying yes to like, do you enjoy cooking? You could be like, yeah, especially trying new recipes. Like, I recently made this amazing Thai curry. Have you ever tried Thai food? Like, it just adds a little more.
I love that. That's a good analogy. Like we're adding flavor to the conversation. And speaking of adding flavor, how about we talk about some conversation starters that kind of go beyond just surface level facts and really try to get to the heart of who someone is?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we fall into these like default questions that don't really tell us much, right? Like, what do you do for work? Like, that can be so impersonal. Why not try something like, what's the most interesting project you've worked on recently? That way, they get to talk about something that they're genuinely excited about.
Yeah, that's so much better. Or instead of just the typical, do you like movies?
Yeah.
You could ask something like, if you could live in any movie universe, which one would it be and why? That's so much more fun. And you kind of get a sense of their imagination.
Yeah, exactly. And those kinds of open-ended questions, they kind of encourage storytelling, which is such a good way to connect with someone on a deeper level.
Right. Okay, so now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about something that I think is often overlooked, but it's really important, and that is body language. Did you know that something like 70% of communication is nonverbal?
It's crazy, right? Like, we say so much without even opening our mouths. It's our posture, our facial expressions, even how we make eye contact. All of that sends signals.
So what are some things that people can do to just kind of make sure that their body language is saying, hey, I'm interested, I'm engaged in this conversation?
Well, I mean, first off, a genuine smile goes such a long way. Like, it instantly makes you seem more approachable and warm.
Yeah, and I don't mean a fake cheesy smile, but like a natural relaxed smile that shows you're enjoying the conversation.
Right, exactly. And then just pay attention to your posture, maintain open body language. Don't cross your arms because that kind of signals, defensiveness. Maybe try leaning in a little bit, keep your shoulders relaxed, and make eye contact.
Yeah, eye contact is so important. It shows that you're present and that you're really listening.
Yeah, it's like a whole conversation is going on beneath the surface, communicating interest and connection. And you can kind of use it both ways, right? You can observe your date's eye contact as well to kind of gauge their level of engagement.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Have you ever heard of mirroring? It's kind of like this subtle thing that happens where you subconsciously mimic the other person's body language.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing how our bodies just naturally do that when we feel like we're connecting with someone, right? So by kind of subtly mirroring their posture or their hand gestures, you can actually enhance that sense of rapport and harmony.
Yeah, it's like you're speaking the same nonverbal language. You're establishing that common ground.
Exactly. And then you can also kind of notice, are they mirroring you back? It could be a sign that they're also feeling comfortable and connected.
So we've talked about avoiding those one-word answers, going beyond yes and no,
Yeah.
crafting those engaging conversation starters, and really using body language to our advantage. What else can we try to really, make those dating conversations sparkle?
Well, laughter is a universal language of connection. So let's not forget about humor. Like a well-placed joke, a witty observation, it can break the ice, lighten the mood, and just create that shared sense of amusement.
And there's so many ways to incorporate humor. Like, for example, self-deprecating humor can be really disarming. Like, poking fun at yourself in a lighthearted way shows that you don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, it's like saying, hey, I'm human, I make mistakes, and I can laugh at myself. And that authenticity is attractive, right? It makes the other person feel like they can relax and be themselves too.
Right. And plus, it can be a great way to diffuse any awkwardness that might come up.
Absolutely. Another type of humor that works well is using funny exaggerations, like take a story and make it just slightly more dramatic or absurd than it actually was.
Yeah, like, I'm such a bad cook. The last time I tried to make toast, I set off the smoke alarm. Obviously an exaggeration, but it paints a funny picture.
Right, exactly. And it's all about reading the room. If your date seems to be enjoying those playful exaggerations, go for it. If not, maybe dial it back a little bit.
So we've got self-deprecating humor, we've got funny exaggerations. What other tips for humor do you have?
Well, I mean, remember that humor is subjective, right? What one person finds hilarious, another person might find offensive. So be mindful of, your audience and just the context of the conversation.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance between being funny and respectful.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is to be genuine. Like, if you're forcing the humor, it's going to show. Just let your natural wit and personality shine through.
That's great advice. And speaking of making a conversation more engaging, let's talk about storytelling. I mean, everyone loves a good story, right? But how do we tell stories that really capture someone's attention?
Well, it all starts with setting the scene. Like, imagine you're painting a picture with words. Instead of just saying, I went to a concert, you could say, I was standing in a packed stadium, the air was thick with anticipation, the lights dimmed, the crowd roared, and my heart was pounding with excitement.
Wow. Okay, you just transported me right into that moment.
Right, exactly. Engage all their senses, describe the sights, the sounds, the smells, the emotions.
And once you've set the scene, then you can really build the story. Add in those little details that make it unique and memorable.
Right, and don't forget pacing. Like, a well-told story has that natural rhythm. Pause for effect, build suspense. Use phrases like, you won't believe what happened next. You want to keep them on the edge of their seat.
Like you're turning your story into this mini adventure. Now, when it comes to choosing what stories to tell on a date, are there things we should keep in mind?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, choose stories that reveal something about you, about your personality, your values, your passions. Do you have a funny story about a travel mishap? Or a heartwarming story about helping someone in need, maybe a story about overcoming a challenge. These kinds of stories not only entertain, but they also give your date a glimpse into who you are.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Avoiding conversation pitfalls, crafting those engaging conversation starters, using body language to our advantage, incorporating humor, and mastering the art of storytelling. Is there anything else that people can try to just really knock those dating conversations out of the park?
Yeah. I mean, flirting is kind of an essential part of the dating game, right? It's all about, expressing interest and attraction in a playful and engaging way.
Ooh, flirting. Okay, this is getting good. So what are your tips for flirting effectively during conversations?
Well, first of all, be genuine. Like, flirting should come from a place of, authentic interest and attraction. If you're not truly interested in the person, it's going to show.
Right, it's not about playing games or using those cheesy pickup lines. It's about letting your genuine interest shine through.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to be a little bold. Confidence is attractive. So, make eye contact, smile, and let them know you're enjoying their company.
And compliments are always a good way to flirt.
Right.
Okay. But, like, what kind of compliments work best?
Make sure they're genuine and specific. So instead of just saying, you look nice, try something like, I love that color on you. It really brings out your eyes. Or, you have such a great laugh. It's contagious.
Ooh, those are much better.
Yeah.
It shows you're really paying attention.
Exactly. And remember, you can compliment their personality, intelligence, their sense of humor. Something like, you're so quick-witted. You always make me laugh. Or, I'm really impressed by your passion for whatever their hobby or interest is. It shows you're interested in them as a person.
Okay, so what about teasing? Is that a good flirting technique?
Teasing can be a fun and flirty way to connect, but it's important to do it in a playful, lighthearted way. The key is to make sure that the other person knows you're not being serious.
Right. So maybe like a gentle ribbing about something silly they said or did, but nothing that could be hurtful or offensive.
Exactly. And pay attention to their reaction. If they seem to be enjoying the banter, keep going. But if they seem uncomfortable or offended, back off immediately.
Good point. So we've got genuine interest, we've got confidence, compliments, and playful teasing. Any other pro tips for flirting?
Don't underestimate the power of body language. Remember all that stuff we talked about earlier? Smiling, open body language, eye contact, mirroring. All of that is super important when you're flirting.
So you're saying, in addition to what we talked about, you can add in some flirtatious gestures, like touching your hair, tilting your head, or maybe leaning in a little closer when they're talking.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of touch. A light touch on the arm or the shoulder can create a little spark and build intimacy. But again, always be mindful of personal boundaries and respect their cues. If they seem uncomfortable with touch, back off.
That's a really good point. It's all about finding that sweet spot between being flirty and respectful.
Yeah. And remember, flirting is about having fun and enjoying the interaction. Relax, be yourself, and see where the conversation takes you.
I love that. Because at the end of the day, the best flirting comes from authenticity and that genuine connection.
Now, while we're on the topic of connection, let's talk about something that can sometimes be a bit tricky in those dating conversations, which is dealing with differences of opinion.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, not everyone is going to agree with us on everything. And that's okay.
Absolutely. In fact, those differences of opinion can actually be a great opportunity to learn more about each other and to see how you handle conflict.
So how do we navigate those potentially awkward moments where we realize, oh, I don't see eye to eye with this person on this?
Well, first and foremost, be respectful. Just because someone has a different opinion doesn't mean they're wrong or that you need to change their mind.
That's about understanding and appreciating different perspectives.
Exactly. And instead of getting defensive or argumentative, try to approach the conversation with curiosity. Ask questions to understand their point of view.
Like, that's interesting. What makes you think that? Or, I've never thought about it that way before. Can you tell me more?
Exactly. It shows you're open-minded. And who knows, you might even gain a new perspective yourself.
Yeah. And even if you totally disagree, you could still express your own opinion in a respectful way.
Absolutely. Use I statements. Explain your perspective without attacking or judging the other person.
Like, I understand your point of view, but I personally feel differently because...
Perfect. It's all about expressing your thoughts and feelings without making the other person feel wrong.
And sometimes, it's okay to agree to disagree. Not every difference of opinion has to turn into a debate.
Exactly. And if you realize you have fundamentally different values or beliefs, it's okay to acknowledge that and move on. Not every date has to lead to a relationship.
That's such an important reminder. Dating is about finding someone who is compatible with you. And sometimes that means recognizing when someone isn't the right fit.
Yeah, it's all part of the process.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about another important part of dating conversations, asking meaningful questions.
Right, because remember, dating is about getting to know someone on a deeper level. It's not just surface level chit-chat. It's about making a real connection.
So any tips for asking questions that really spark meaningful conversations?
Well, think about what you genuinely want to know about this person. What are their values, their dreams, their fears, their passions?
Yeah, it's about going beyond those typical, what do you do and where are you from kind of questions.
Exactly. Ask those open-ended questions. Invite them to share their thoughts, their feelings, their experiences.
Like, what are you most passionate about? Or what's something you're really proud of?
Exactly. Those are great. And don't be afraid to get a little vulnerable yourself. Sharing your own experiences and feelings can encourage the other person to open up too.
It's all about creating that space for authentic connection.
Absolutely. And remember to listen actively. Really pay attention to what they're saying, both verbally and non-verbally.
Right. It's not just about waiting for your turn to talk. It's about really engaging with what they're sharing.
Yeah. Ask those follow-up questions, make eye contact, show them that you're genuinely interested.
And don't be afraid of silences. Sometimes a little pause in the conversation can be a good thing.
Yeah. It gives both of you a moment to reflect on what's been said.
And it can create a sense of intimacy and closeness.
Now, while we're talking about intimacy, let's touch on something that can be a little bit delicate, especially in those early stages of dating, and that is physical intimacy.
Ooh, this is a good one. Navigating physical touch and affection can be tricky when you're first getting to know someone.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that everyone has different comfort levels and boundaries.
So how can we approach physical touch in a way that feels respectful and appropriate?
Pay attention to the other person's cues. Are they leaning in, making eye contact, reciprocating your touch?
It's all about reading those nonverbal signals.
Exactly. And start small. A light touch on the arm or shoulder can be a good way to test the waters. And if they seem comfortable, you can gradually increase that level of physical intimacy.
But if they pull away or seem hesitant at all, respect their boundaries, and back off.
Absolutely. Never pressure someone into doing something they're not comfortable with.
Consent is crucial every step of the way.
Exactly. And remember, physical intimacy should be a natural progression of that emotional connection. Don't rush it. Let it unfold organically.
And communication is key. Don't be afraid to talk about your comfort levels and your boundaries.
Right? It's always better to be open and honest about those expectations. So, before we wrap up this first part of our deep dive into dating conversations, let's touch on one more important topic: ending the date gracefully.
Yeah, because even if you've had an amazing time, sometimes knowing how to say goodbye can be a little awkward.
It can be. So, let's talk about some tips for ending the date on a positive note. First of all, be sincere. If you had a good time, let them know.
Something like, I had a really great time tonight. Thanks for sharing it with me.
Perfect. And if you're interested in seeing them again, be clear about that too.
I'd love to get together again sometime. Would you be open to that?
Exactly. And even if you're not feeling a romantic spark, you can still end the date on a friendly note.
It was really nice meeting you. I wish you all the best.
And remember, a simple gesture, like a hug or a handshake, can go a long way.
Yeah, it's a nice way to end the date on a positive and respectful note.
Yeah, and even if the date didn't go, like, as amazingly as you'd hoped, ending it gracefully is still important. Just showing that respect and leaving a positive impression.
Absolutely. I agree. It's all about leaving things on a good note, regardless of whether you see a romantic future together. Speaking of positive notes, let's talk about something that can really just enhance the whole dating experience, and that's playfulness.
Yeah, playfulness is it just adds the spark to the conversation, bringing that lightness, spontaneity, just that shared joy to the interaction.
So how can we bring more of that playfulness into those dating conversations?
Humor is one of the best tools for that. A well-timed joke, a funny observation, even a silly pun. It can break the ice and just create that shared amusement.
Yeah, it's like saying, hey, I don't take myself too seriously. I'm here to have fun.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to be a little silly. Embrace that inner child. Suggest a playful competition like two truths and a lie. Or try coming up with funny captions for pictures you see around you.
Oh, those are good ideas.
Yeah.
It's all about just letting go of the pressure to be perfect and just enjoying the moment. And playfulness can also be expressed through physical touch, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like a playful nudge, a light tickle, maybe even a mock arm wrestling match. It creates that fun, flirty vibe. But of course, always, be mindful of their boundaries and their cues. Playfulness should always be consensual and respectful.
Okay, I want to circle back for a minute to something we touched on earlier, and that's the importance of authenticity.
Hmm.
Because what's the point of all these techniques if we're not being true to ourselves?
Yeah, exactly. The best dating conversations, the ones that are successful, are the ones where both people feel comfortable being themselves, being genuine.
So how can we make sure that we are showing up authentically in those interactions?
Well, first of all, be honest about your interests, your values, your goals. Don't try to be someone you're not just to impress the other person.
Yeah, let your true personality shine through.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to, share your quirks, share your vulnerabilities. Being open and honest about who you are creates that space for genuine connection.
And it's okay to have different opinions or interests.
Yeah.
Sometimes those differences can spark the most interesting conversations and help you learn more about each other.
Yeah, for sure. Embrace those things that make you unique and let the other person see the real you. Don't try to fit into some mold of what you think they're looking for.
Okay, so let's talk about something that can feel a little intimidating sometimes, and that's dealing with those lulls in the conversation. Those moments of silence that can feel kind of awkward, but they don't have to be.
Right. Silences are totally normal. Instead of panicking, trying to scramble for something to say, try to embrace those pauses.
So what can we do during those lulls?
First, just take a breath, relax. Don't feel like you need to fill every second with words. A comfortable silence can actually be a sign of good rapport.
Yeah, you're both just comfortable enough to be present in the moment.
Exactly. So use that time to maybe observe your surroundings, make eye contact, just enjoy each other's company. You might find that, a new topic just naturally arises from that stillness.
And if the silence starts to feel a little too long, you can always use it as an opportunity to ask a question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about something you said earlier, and refer back to something from the conversation. It shows you were listening.
Yeah. That's a great tip. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about a skill that can be so valuable, not just in dating conversations, but in life in general. And that's active listening. It's more than just hearing the words. It's about truly understanding and engaging with what the other person is saying.
Yeah. Active listening is like a superpower when it comes to communication. It shows that you value the other person's thoughts and feelings
Mhm.
and that you're genuinely interested in what they have to say.
So what are some of the key elements of active listening?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, pay attention, put your phone away, you know, maintain eye contact, focus on what they're saying, both the words and their body
Yeah,
language.
like give them the gift of your full presence.
And exactly. And resist the urge to interrupt or jump in with your own thoughts before they finished. Let them finish speaking.
Right. It shows respect and allows you to really grasp their message.
And then once they've finished speaking, maybe summarize what you heard to make sure you understand. So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying it shows you're engaged and that you care about getting it right.
That's such a good point. It prevents misunderstandings.
And then don't underestimate the power of nonverbal cues, right? Nodding your head, tilting your head slightly, using facial expressions. It shows you're tuned in.
Yeah, it's like you're creating this silent dialogue.
Right. And then ask clarifying questions. Don't be afraid to ask for more details if something isn't clear.
Yeah, it shows you're truly interested in understanding.
And remember, active listening isn't just about receiving information, it's about creating a space for the other person to feel heard and understood.
It's about making them feel like their thoughts and feelings matter.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about a topic that can be tricky. Dealing with controversial topics.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of inevitable that at some point you're going to encounter topics that you and your date might have, different opinions on. It can be a bit of a minefield,
Yeah?
but it doesn't have to be a deal breaker.
So how can we approach these conversations in a way that's respectful and constructive, even if we don't agree?
Well, I mean, first of all, just remember it's okay to have different perspectives. Like, those differences can actually lead to some really interesting and stimulating conversations.
Yeah, it's all about like approaching the conversation with an open mind.
Exactly. And instead of trying to win the argument or change their mind, see it as an opportunity to learn, expand your own perspective.
And if things are starting to get a little heated or you feel yourself getting defensive, it's okay to take a step back. I think we're both pretty passionate about this, and it's clear we have different views, so maybe we can agree to disagree and move on to something else.
That's a great way to, like, de-escalate the situation,
Yeah.
prevent it from becoming a full-blown argument.
Okay. So now let's talk about something that's, crucial in any relationship, but especially in those early stages of dating, and that is building trust.
Yeah, trust is that foundation, right? It's
Yeah.
about feeling safe, respected, confident that the other person has your best interests at heart.
So how can we build that trust in those early dating conversations?
Well, I mean, one of the most important things is consistency. If you say you're going to do something, follow through. Keep your promises.
Right. Shows you're reliable, that your word means something.
Exactly, and be honest, even when it's difficult. If you make a mistake, own up to it. If you're not sure about something, say so.
It's about being genuine and transparent.
Right. And be a good listener. Remember all that stuff we talked about with active listening. It's so important for building trust.
Yeah, when someone feels heard and understood, it creates that sense of safety and connection.
Exactly. And respect their boundaries. Pay attention to their cues and don't push them to do anything they're not comfortable with.
Right. It's about honoring their space, physically and emotionally.
And remember, building trust takes time. It's gradual. It unfolds through those consistent actions and open communication.
Yeah, it's like building a bridge brick by brick. So let's talk about a skill that can be super valuable in dating conversations, but in life as well. And that's reading social cues. It's about picking up on those subtle signals people send through their body language, their tone of voice, facial expressions.
Yeah, it's like having that sixth sense.
So what are your tips for becoming better at reading those social cues?
Well, pay attention to body language. Are they leaning in? Are they pulling away? Arms crossed, relaxed, making eye contact.
Yeah, those nonverbal signals can tell you a lot.
Right. And listen to their tone of voice. Are they speaking quickly, slowly, high-pitched, low-pitched, enthusiastic, hesitant?
Yeah. The way someone speaks can convey so much emotion.
And pay attention to those facial expressions. Smiling, frowning, neutral. Eyes wide, narrowed, engaged, bored.
All those subtle cues can give you a lot of insight.
And remember, context is key. The same social cue can have different meanings depending on the situation.
So it's about taking all those factors into consideration.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the better you'll become at reading social cues, like learning a new language.
Okay, so let's talk about something that can feel a little awkward. Giving and receiving compliments. Compliments are great, show appreciation, make someone feel good, but they can be tricky.
They can be. Sometimes we hold back on giving compliments because we don't want to seem insincere. Or we downplay compliments we receive because we're uncomfortable with praise.
So how can we give and receive compliments in a way that feels genuine and comfortable?
Well, I mean, when you're giving a compliment, be specific and sincere. Instead of, you look nice, try, I love that shirt on you, the color really brings out your eyes. Or, you have a great sense of humor, I always enjoy your jokes.
Right. Those are so much more impactful. It shows you're paying attention.
Exactly. And remember, compliments don't have to be about looks. You can compliment their personality, skills, accomplishments, even their kindness.
Yeah, like, you're such a great listener, or
Yeah.
I'm really impressed by your dedication to whatever their passion is.
Perfect. Now, when receiving a compliment, try to accept it graciously. Don't deflect or downplay it.
So instead of saying, oh, it's nothing, just a simple thank you. I appreciate that.
Right. It shows that you value their opinion. And if you're a little shy, it's okay to acknowledge that.
Like, thank you. That's really kind of you to say. I'm a little shy about compliments.
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about something that many people face, a common challenge, and that is dealing with nerves. First dates can be nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's totally normal to feel anxious.
Mm.
I mean, you're meeting someone new, it's a romantic setting, those butterflies are a good sign. But sometimes those nerves can just get in the way of relaxing and being yourself.
Oh, absolutely. So let's talk about some techniques for calming those pre-date jitters.
Okay, what can people try?
Well, I mean, first of all, remember, everyone gets nervous on dates. You're not alone. Knowing that can take some of the pressure off.
Yeah, it's a human experience.
And preparation can help. Choose an outfit that makes you feel confident and comfortable. Plan your route, so you're not stressed about being late. Have a few conversation topics in mind.
Those are all really practical tips. What about managing those jitters in the moment?
Well, deep breathing can be super helpful. When we're anxious, our breathing gets all shallow and rapid, so consciously taking those slow, deep breaths can really calm your nervous system.
It's like hitting the reset button.
Exactly. And mindfulness techniques. Focus on the present moment, pay attention to your senses, try to let go of those worries and negative thoughts.
It's about grounding yourself in the here and now.
And remember, your date is probably nervous too.
Well, I think this has been such a great conversation. We've covered so many valuable tips and techniques for navigating those dating conversations, from avoiding those conversation pitfalls to building trust, handling difficult emotions, and even flirting like a pro.
Yeah, it's been fun. Remember, the most important thing is to be yourself, to relax, and to enjoy the process. Dating should be fun after all.
I love that. Dating should be fun. It's all about connection, shared laughter, and authentic self-expression. So, to all our listeners out there, be yourselves, have those conversations, and see where they lead. You never know what amazing connections you might make.